Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Ask That Podcast here on YouTube. Now, before you get started on this, unless you want spoilers and shit, go dig back on this channel. I don't know how far back, because I don't know how far I'm spacing these out. There should be three videos before this. This is the Hobie Hanson series of books. And this is book 6. I had to think for a second. I covered book 1 as a video, book 2 as a video, then 3, 4, 5 were a video. This is the first time I ever read this one. Let's get into it. So, warning spoilers, of course, the book review. This is Jamie Gilson, Hobie Hanson, and Sticks and Stones and Skeleton Bones, illustrated by D. DeRosa. And this is one of those library-bound, I think some of these companies made these especially for libraries. I love these. It's, solid color, the reproduction of the cover, kind of badly done. All the stickers all over, until this book was checked out a lot. And this came from Burlington, Iowa. On the back here. Nick Rossi pointed the flashlight in my face. My fingers are practically popsicles, he said. Let's get out of here. What could you possibly dig up on a night like this? It's a secret, I told him. I could hardly keep from laughing. It was going to be so funny. Hobie Hanson thinks that digging up treasure he and his friends buried in the backyard for future archaeologists is going to be a real kick. He has no idea the trouble his kip will cause, but his best friend was Santa Claus, even with a skeleton. The snowballing events finally leading Hobie to the first ever conflict, mediation, and a free elevator will keep as many fans riveted to the page. All right. So 70s are on. I started this series with the second book, which is 4B Goes Wild. Around the time it came out, found the first book at a used bookstore, and then read book 3 and 4 as they came out, but by the time 5, 6, and 7, there's 7 total that I can find. I was not even knowing these were coming out. I thought seriously, because there's kind of a gap. And this is one of those series where I think there's about a year or so gap between each book, maybe 2. So I'm wondering how many people actually have read this whole thing unless they discovered it later on, like with this book. All right. Little setup. The kids are now having to go to school inside an old mall because there was a big flood in the last book. Very beginning of the last book that their school got flooded out. Even though they're on the second floor, the bottom floor got flooded. So they're going to school in a mall. And it's a still operating mall like this. 2 or 3 huge department stores they've sectioned off into classrooms. So what happens is our main character here, Hobie, back in book 3, he buries the 4th grade time capsule. It's like putting a janitor's closet at City Hall. So him and his friend Molly and a couple other people decide they're going to make their own time capsule buried in his backyard. And he says at the end of that book, hey, maybe one day my friend Nick comes back from summer camp, we'll dig it up and I'll have him add something to it. Well, then books 4 and 5, it's never mentioned. I'm like, oh, did they just forget about it? Okay, whatever, it's kids' book. And then this one started, I'm like, oh, they brought it back. Oh, continuity. And what happens, one of the things he buried in there was the can of peanut butter. You open it up, or mixed nuts, you open it up, it's a snake, and the spring coiled snake inside, it shoots up and hits you in the face. Well, when it happens to Nick, it gets caught in his nose. And the next day or so at school, his nose is all red and looks crazy. And kids start spreading rumors that they got in a fight. And the whole thing is based around the conflict between those two. The side plot, the 2 other side plots, is ever since about book 3, they've been kind of hinting that the lead girl Molly's in love with Hobie. And they really strongly go in that direction. This one, so I'm thinking maybe the next one, that's where we're going. I don't know. And, excuse me, give me a second here. The Santa Claus thing. Santa Claus shows up and talks to the kids because he's at the mall, and Hobie realizes fairly early on this Santa Claus is the guy that used to own the big store. Their classrooms are inside of now, something Bob. Like Robert Bob or something like this. It's a dumb name. And they end up meeting up. He talks to the guy, and the guy's not have kids today. He don't even know what these toys kids are asking for, blah, blah, blah. Typical old person not connected with the youth. I get it. I'm starting to feel that way myself. I was like, oh, man, you kids, you're missing out. There's really great action figures out. You just want to play video games all day and stare at the screen. Even little ones, I'm like, man, when I was a little kid, I liked video games, but I love my action figures and my Legos and all this stuff too, And it can't say because there wasn't video games when I was a kid. I'm the first generation to really grow up with video games in the house. You got to remember from far back as my memory goes, excuse me, sorry. Whew. The Atari 2600 VCS was in my cousin's house and stuff like this, and I got one, and I'm guessing about 80, 81, 79, somewhere around there. That's your plots going on. What happens is that because of various misunderstandings, and it's snowing, it's getting near Christmas. This is up in Illinois, I think. Yeah, I think they're outside Chicago. I think they mentioned Chicago a couple times. There's a big snow hill out in the back where the kids go play, and Nick's at the top. Hobie climbs up it. They get in a fight. They fall down. They're going to get in a fight, and Molly just runs out and smacks both of them in the face. Well, Bob, who's Santa, sees this, and he promises school all new computers when they get back and everything. He's like, I ain't going to give them the computers now, so they got to figure out how to get these computers. And when this was written, which would be, glasses. Give me a second here. I usually don't do that stuff to little. There's all the books. See, this is the start of the Hobie Hanson shit here. 13, Ways to Sink Yourself, 4B Goes Wild, Hobie Hanson, You Were a Double Dog Dare. These 4 are the ones I read, as they came out. That one I didn't hear about until a few years ago. 91, okay. So 91. Computers were still not in every school. I mean, I happened to be in a school district where one of the guys on the school board pushed for it heavy and had deals with Apple. Our annual, when I was in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, was a book and a videotape. And we put the videotape together using VCRs to edit and editing boards and did graphics on computers and inserted that in and used Macintosh. I actually can remember beta testing some early Macintosh video editing software in the early 90s. That was part of the deal with Apple. They give us these computers. And we had a flatbed scanner. A full legal size flatbed scanner back when that was probably $3,000. Which, did I invent comic scans? I was just thinking about that. I actually remember sitting down and scanning in Ground Pound issue 1 over the course of 2 annual staff classes and saving it to disk and giving it to a buddy of mine. Cover every page, Did I invent comic scans? I never thought about it, but it could have been. I mean, that was 90. 90, 91, somewhere in there. But they want to get the computer. So the mediation thing, that's how they resolve differences at the school. Now they have two other classmates sit the people down, they talk over. They put Molly and Nick and Hobie in this old freight elevator. They use it for music class because it's, helps hold the noise in. And they talk it over and you find out that the various things that Hobie thinks, the skeleton thing, him and Nick have to go after they're already arguing before they have the fight out on the playground. They're going to take this skeleton from one class to another, and they end up tripping down the stairs. Just various stuff like that kind of seems kind of shady here and there. And it gets explained. It's all kind of coincidences and all this shit. Nick's still kind of mad. And what it basically was is a bunch of the other boys were riling this shit up. So now what they end up having to do is now they got to convince Bob Santa to give the kids the computer. So they do a mediation with him. That ends up going off well, and the book ends with Nick and Hobie and Nick's little brother Toby and some little kid, Lakeisha, I think was her name, that Toby goes to school with because he's in kindergarten with these. When these books started, Toby was 3 or 4. And Molly's there, and they're reburying the time capsule. And Molly has to mediate between the 2 little kindergarten kids. It's one of the better, honestly. Right now, I have not read the last one, which is Soccer Circus, I think might be the title. But as of right now, my favorite, of course, is 13 Ways to Sink Yourself. 4B Goes Wild, being pretty good. Hobie Hanson, You're Weird is not bad. Double Dog Dare is not bad. Greatest Hero of them all was not good. It just felt too much setup and not a lot happened after the first couple chapters. This one worked better. This resolved some things. I said in book 3, they introduced the time capsule. It gets brought back. In the book before this, Hobie and Nick find this. It used to be where security would sit because they could see all over the store before they had security cameras. They found this little alcove. That gets reintroduced in this. Little things like that. One of the kids being good at video games gets reintroduced in this. You can tell she's trying to, I don't know if maybe she thought maybe this is the last book. I don't know, because I don't remember when the next one came out. I didn't know these existed. I really thought for years it ended with Double Dog Dare. And then when I discovered Hero of them all, I'm I'll grab that. I got it off Amazon used. Remember, almost all of these I own in 2, where I own a hardcover and then I own a soft cover because or I have owned, because I bought most of them paperbacks back in the day, scholastic book fairs. But as I'm getting them, I want to get them cheap, and on Amazon you get these library editions cheap. Like I probably paid $2 for this book and probably paid $3 to ship it. I paid more for shipping than I did for the book, but hey. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, if you did, give me that thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, all the other bullshit. Talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.